Heretic's fork. It's a collar with two sets of metal forks at each end. One set was placed under the chin and the other at the sternum, and the device was secured around the neck. This forced the victim to keep their head raised, leading to severe discomfort and sleep deprivation. The person would be asked questions or just be left there, while the fork slowly pierced through their neck and jaw, and this lasted until the victim could no longer hold their head raised, causing the fork to pierce through. Rat's cup. A method attributed to the Roman Emperor Nero involved tying a cup filled with hungry rats to the victim's stomach and then applying heat to the bottom, forcing the rats to burrow through the victim's body to escape. In some parts of South America, they used a variation of this method called the rectoscope, which consisted of inserting living rats into a victim's rectum through a tube, forcing them to make their way through the victim's body to get out. Catherine's wheel. An execution method where the victim's limbs were tied to a large wheel and then struck with a hammer or iron bar, breaking their bones in multiple places. The wheel was placed on display later on, often leaving the victim to starve. Boiling alive. The victim would be lowered into a large container with a boiling liquid, such as oil, gradually and slowly. The first exposed parts would be the extremities, such as fingers and toes, which have lots of nerve endings and cause incredible pain. Then the skin, muscles, and fat softened and liquefied due to the heat, while internal organs and the flesh got boiled from the outside, making this a slow and agonizing process. In another variation, which is thought to be even more painful and long, the victim would be lowered into a normal temperature liquid, which would be gradually heated until it started boiling. Keel hauling. Keel hauling was a severe maritime punishment where a sailor was tied to a rope and dragged underwater from one side of the ship to the other, passing under the ship's keel. If the person did not drown or get vital damage from the rusty and sharp wooden body of the ship itself, they would just do it again until the person was no longer alive. It was feared for its brutality. Sawing. When used as an execution method, the victim would be hanged upside down to make the blood flow to the head, increasing the time the person was conscious. The executioner would then divide the victim vertically into two halves, starting from the groin and moving upwards. Hanged, drawn, and quartered. This method was used to execute men convicted of high treason in medieval and early modern Britain and Ireland, and it consisted of multiple steps. The convicted traitor was tied to a wooden board and dragged behind a horse to the execution site. There, he was almost hanged to death, then mutilated and had his organs removed, before being beheaded and his body divided into 4 parts, just in case he was still alive. These remains were often displayed in well-known places across the country, like London Bridge, to warn others about the consequences of being a traitor.